usually what's said when you retire.
Oh, yeah.
They're kind of,
I apologize. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Yeah. Okay.
Here. Four. In the city, and somebody lived in the city, so it's like only have four. But somebody was moving out to California, so they were like, "We'll give you the coop, we'll give you the chickens. We just want them to not die in our backyard." And we were like, "Okay, sure." And then they lived for years.
This place is such a
Really.
And then we just had this chicken coop sitting there for 2 years, just kind of going, just getting integrated. But then it was like, you know,
Just
the pandemic
some
comes and we're all locked in.
She was driving it over us.
We may have to generate some of our own
make
food
them
here. So
engage.
let's just
Where?
land some.
I'd like to
have a
compete with them.
scorecard. He's old for.
Mr. Patterson, if you're ready, we're ready. Blame it on the other kids. I like that.
Realize you're spending your own money.
I'll call the November 8th, 2021 Ludington City Council meeting to order. Welcome and thank you for your attendance. Before we proceed, please check your electronic devices and ensure they are silenced. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Truzano. Present. Counselor May.
Here.
Counselor Winchevsky.
Here.
Counselor Johnson.
Here.
Counselor Stibbits.
Here.
Counselor Kane.
Present.
Counselor Bolger.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. In lieu of an invocation, please join me in 20 seconds of silence and self-reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please rise. I'll open the floor for public comment. Anyone wishing to address council, please step to the lectern and proceed after stating your name and address. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. Please speak directly into the microphone and address all comments to this chair. There will be another public comment opportunity following communication from city officials. The floor is open for public comment.
Good evening. My name's Mary Banholzer. My address is 308 East Loomis, and I'm here about the presentation ordinance on the accessory dwelling units. I've owned my home for 10 years, and I moved up here permanently June 6th of this year. It's a 3-bedroom home. I do not have enough space for all family and friends that live back in Kansas where I came from. And so I was hoping to build a 2-car garage with a unit above for friends and family to visit. I've been to several of these meetings and I know it's progressing along, but I really hope that you all take it into consideration that I really do need this unit, and I hope that you all can vote yes on it. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Tom Rada, Dowland Street. Back in 2015, city officials looked comprehensively at the city charter and suggested 7 ways to change it for the better without involving the public. Every single one of those 7 proposals made the city of Ludington less accountable and transparent to the citizens. They took what they thought were the best 3 of those proposals and put them on the ballot in 2016. All 3 failed to pass. On the basis of that experience, I am initially skeptical of any attempt to do wholesale revisions of the city charter. It is refreshing, however, to see that the city council is planning on doing this revision in a responsible manner by having an elected charter revision commission, effectively acting independently of City Hall and hopefully untainted by their prejudice, insulation, and/or isolation of the general public. The public has not been given information on the FOIA appeal introduced before you tonight, but as you may have expected, it's from me, and it considers an over-exempted police accident report and investigation. A woman died from injuries sustained when a truck hit her while she was crossing James Street with two of her friends who were also hit, but survived with lesser injuries. A week after the incident, LPD issued a press release acknowledging the death and naming the person who died. The LPD provided me with a lot of records regarding this incident. I wish to acknowledge my gratitude for the extent of their disclosures. But amidst this transparency lies also darkness, as the names and genders of those involved and much other relevant data was whited out. These deletions made the narratives and interviews incomprehensible at times. And even though the deceased victim's name had been publicly released by LPD to area news agencies, her name and pronouns related to her were covered up throughout the records I received, along with the names and pronouns of other victims and witnesses, an exemption which the city of Langton has never invoked before. In all, there were 33 exemptions blacked out on the state-mandated UD-10 report about the driver and passenger of the truck, few of which were legitimate exemptions. Before this council meets in 2 weeks, I will be drafting an article that explains why there are dozens of illegal exemptions claimed in this FOIA response, and hope that you can remedy the issue at that meeting. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council during public comment? If not, I'll close public comment and move on to the approval of the consent agenda, which tonight consists of the approval of the council minutes of the October 25th, 2021 regular meeting, the approval of bill payment for the period commencing October 25th, 2021, and the adoption of this agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to approve this consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
I'll support.
Motion by Counselor Johnson, second by Counselor Stibbits to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any questions or additions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. First to speak before council tonight, I'd like to introduce Dr. Kim Halliday. Dr. Halliday is a retired executive director of the West Michigan Community Mental Health System and is an active advocate and leader in the promotion of healthy lifestyle choices and options for local senior citizens. Dr. Halliday will present council and the public a conscientious overview of the present state of affairs and future needs of the senior population in both the city of Ludington and all of Mason County. Dr. Halliday, if you would. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate it. What I'm going to do, well, is hopefully this will work. We tried this the other day and I was informed we had to turn it on first. That would make a big difference. Here. I know Deb is here, so I'm not too worried at this point.
Can you use this?
Really test it and it works, so. Well, can I just stand here?
Yeah, and just use the
And I can
space
just use
button.
the, computer screen. Right? Here.
The computer froze.
Oh, did it?
Computer froze.
Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to be standing so far away, I can't even read it. What I have is a much lengthier presentation than I'm going to give you tonight. Thank God you're probably thinking, Mitch said I had all the time I needed, but I figured he was only joking. What I want to also share is that I have the unabridged version of my notes that I'm going to distribute to everybody so that you can, dig a little bit deeper, because I want to go through this pretty quickly. Also in those notes, I'm going to mention or give you the contact information if you have some follow-up comments you'd like to make. What I want to do is I'm here to, is this, okay. What I want to do is,
I'm so sorry.
there we go. I know there may be some comments out there, concerns about there's some changes brewing for services, and I wanted to come and talk about what we're doing, because there isn't anything that's specifically been talked about right now. I just want to be completely transparent, and we want to make sure that you understand what we're trying to do. As the employer of the people at the senior center here in Ludington, you certainly have a very vested interest in this. So I wanted to just make sure that you are apprised of what we're doing. I think the first comment I want to make is to just mention to you that there's an unavoidable reality that we all face. We're all going to get old if we're lucky. And that's something that many of us tend to deny. We don't really think that's going to happen to us. The reality is it is going to happen to us if you're lucky. And it's also going to happen to people you care about, people that you love, people that you work with and spend time with. It's going to happen to all of us at some point. I just think that's a fact. Getting old is something everybody understands is going to happen, but you think it's going to happen. Not to me. I'm going to dodge this bullet, but the reality is that, as far as I know, no one has gotten out of this life without getting old or dying young, I guess. Examples: sometimes we delay creating a will, or we don't establish healthcare directives. There are a number of things that we demonstrate that we don't take very acknowledge the fact that there is going to be the fact of old age. Yet the evidence is everywhere. Our family, our grandparents, our parents, and for some of us, the mirror is a good reminder that phase of life does happen. As one ages, there are significant supports that are going to be needed for many people. And if you live long enough, we're all going to need some supports. But I think it's important to recognize there's a lot of talent that's available, a pool of resources that a community can tap. And I don't think we do as well at tapping that resource as we probably can. Unfortunately, those talents, those supports just don't magically appear. They have to be created by a focused and proactive effort. The essence of my presentation today, what I hope we can do is in Ludington and Mason County, is the desire that we can become a model community for services to the aged. And I think that to allow people to live their life with the supports, the opportunities, and to age with dignity. And I think that's going to be, something that everybody could be supportive of. What I'm going to argue eventually is that we need to assemble a group of citizens to provide leadership in making this happen. We have some wonderful programs going on right now throughout the county, but we don't have a group of individuals like a city council or a county commission or a school board that is charged with that responsibility of overseeing what we need to be doing. Many counties, in fact, most counties have such an entity like this, and I think it's important for us to think about how we might want to envision that. I want you to know this is a work in progress. We're out collecting ideas, This was something that kind of surprised me. I was with Wally at a meeting the other day, and I thought we were going to have more discussion, but the consensus was, let's go out and talk about it a little bit and let people be aware of some of the things we're thinking about at the Council on Aging. There's a lot that I don't understand and a lot that I probably don't know yet, but we're going to continue to try to develop this. What I'm going to do tonight is provide some background information about me so that you know where I came from briefly, explain the origins of where this came from, give you a bit of background about the programs that are currently existing, and then talk about the concerns that I have about the programs. Not so much the programs. I think the programs are excellent, like our senior center and here in Scottville and Meals program, but I think my concern is going to be more on the oversight in a larger sense. I'm going to propose that we create an authority, if you will. It's not the right word, but it's a council, a commission that will oversee adult services in our community. And I want to hopefully demonstrate why that's important. I'm going to spend some time talking just very briefly about the pillars of wellness. I think that's really essential that we understand what positive aging is about and what citizens need to be able to live. We sometimes go right on by that and don't think in terms of what are those issues. We start trying to create them without really taking the time to think about it. And I'm also going to talk about how important it is to target what we need to be doing rather than just to let it unfold. What's unfolded over time has been excellent, but I think there's some issues that we need to also be addressing. Talk a little bit about staffing. I'm going to propose that the Council on Aging, and I'll explain what that is real briefly in a minute, will be the natural organization to morph into this. Propose next steps. My background, real briefly, I've been around for a long time. I have okay credentials. I've been director of a mental health center. I've been on the board at Memorial Medical Center for 20-some years as chair. I've been on area agency boards, not only here now, but also in Vermont, where we lived briefly, and also down in Battle Creek. And I think I had a platform of knowledge, and when we came back about a year and a half or so ago, came back to this area because it was home, we discovered, after being away. I wanted to get involved in activities, and from this platform, I examined what was going on and participated in older adult services, and as a result of that, I came up with these recommendations. The Council on Aging has been dealing recently with trying to find its way. The Council on Aging is a group of 7 citizens appointed by the county commission whose principal function is to kind of oversee, but principally to advise the county commission regarding how it spends the senior millage monies. And we've been seeing a little bit of drifting, people leaving the group, and it was in that context that the group said, we need to kind of step back and look at what's going on to see if we can revitalize. I'm not a member of the council. I'm just an interested citizen. I see other people that attend from time to time here as well. To focus the discussion about how we perceive, Mary Bedker, the chair, asked me if I would make a presentation or a suggestion about how we might do this to get the dialogue started. And that's what led to what I'm doing now. We decided to take it out, these ideas to area citizens, most notably the employers of the large programs such as the Senior Center here in Ludington, as well as Scottville. And so we met with the MCC, the Mason County School Board, and tomorrow morning I meet with the county commissioners to kind of talk about this. We don't have a plan yet for what we're going to do. We're just trying to examine some ideas about how we might create that leadership group. I want to mention this because I think this was pretty stunning, and I think most people need to understand. We have 29,000 people who live in Mason County, and approximately 7,000, actually it's a little over 7,000 of that number, are 65 or older. That means that 1 person in 4 in our county is 65 or older. As just to get a balance, we have 6,000 children, if you will, 17 and younger. So we have more people over 65 than we do people under 18 in the community. That's a pretty sizable number, I believe. It kind of creates a context. and I want to emphasize, if I don't enough, I don't think we have some excellent providers. I've been to many of these sites, sometimes several times. But one of the things I discover, they all come from different places, different employers, different missions, not conflicting, but they've sort of appeared on the community stage and they've done some wonderful things. There isn't an overseeing entity that is present. Countless people have been served extremely well, and in no way do we want to interfere with any of the stuff that's going on. Some of the principal providers are the Ludington Senior Center, Scottville Senior Center, in Tallman, Free Soil. We have a meals program, Help Ministry, and there's also a group called the Area Agency on Aging, which is a group. I happen to sit on this board. It's out of Grand Rapids, serving 9 counties. Its responsibility is to distribute the Older Americans Act funds, which is largely, mainly federal dollars. But there isn't close coordination regarding how that money gets brought into our community with how our millage program. I'm not saying they're conflicting, but it's not designed to work as smoothly as I think it could. Some of the funding sources are the senior millage. There are about $600,000 each year that are generated through our tax dollars, and that's a major contributor to our funding. The area agency out of Grand Rapids, we're a 9-county area. We receive about $300,000 from that entity. And that largely funds like our meals program and some of the programs at the senior center in Scottville. And I think we get about 14,000 or so, something like that here in Ludington with the senior. We also get private donations and United Way, client payment, and there's in-kind with what the city does here and what MCC does. So we're about $1 million, approximately $900,000 of that comes from these senior millage and the area agency. The bodies that make decisions about how it's spent are the county commission. It's advised by the Council on Aging, and then the area agency makes decisions about how monies are spent here. My principal concerns about, and I'll just go right into this, the things that concern me about our current system is that there's no oversight entity that's bringing all these things together and making some decisions about how we should do things. There's no comprehensive assessment of what our needs are. I think everybody is addressing a need right now, but we haven't decided what the needs are. I'll mention that a little bit more as we go forward. And there's no group that really clearly assumes responsibility and the authority for doing the assessment, determining how the money is going to be distributed, and then to monitor what happens after it has been distributed. When things are going, right now things go well as far as coordinating activities, because we have people in their roles like Bill and Vicki at the different sites who work well together. And but it's not by design. It's because of the strength of personality, and many of us have been around long enough to know that doesn't always hold up over time. The entry into the system, I judged, and I've been watching it, is not very customer-centered. There's no clear front door to knock on for people to come in. There's no one there that can bring you in, do an assessment, guide you to what is needed, and then to follow up. And I saw this very vividly displayed when I was in Vermont, when I was on this area agency board, how we had an INA, information and assistance person. We had, I think we're two and a half people. All they did is receive incoming calls and make sure that people got what they needed. And it wasn't just the individual, it was the family member or the family physician or the attorney, whomever, to try to guide people into our system. There's nobody that's clearly assigned to monitor performance. And I'm not saying performance is bad, it's just that we distribute money and then we really don't stay on top of how that money has, if it's gone to, created the outcomes that were sought. We don't speak with one voice as a community. And I'll give you an example, the one I have up here. In my research, I discovered there's a county nearby that has a population that's 24% fewer people live there, yet that county receives 44% more money than we do. There may be some very good reasons for that. I don't want to suggest that, but it makes me wonder. That's a significant, a county of 22,000 receives 350,000 from the area agency. We receive 250,000. That makes me curious about how things work. And there are a lot of things like that are going on. We don't have a performance issue. Again, I'm going to mention that. I think it's a system issue that can be correctable. The tendency is going to be to go out and try to find something that's going to work for us. I suggest that we first decide what we want to look for. I use the silly analogy here. You don't want to go out on a scavenger hunt without a hunt list. You may not do very well if you don't know what you're looking for. So the idea is to try to think about what would work here in our county to oversee our resources. And that's just what the whole purpose of this is, to come up. What I envision is a 7 to 9 person citizen board, perhaps appointed by the county commission. That's true in many counties. With the responsibility and authority to determine how service priorities should align, and then to oversee and coordinate the funding distribution. It's a body not unlike a city council that oversees how this money is received and then distributed. The group would be passionate about what they do, but they also would have to have a lot of responsibilities for making sure that things are done well. I want to spend just a couple of minutes here. This process is how this board would work. These are some of the things I think that are missing on the big stage here. First of all, to establish a mission, vision, and values. That sounds kind of hokey, but it becomes important when we are making decisions about how things should work in a community. Then to have an understanding about what good health is, I think is another one. Aging well. A group that's aware of the demographics, what's going on in our community in terms of numbers. A group that also focuses on assessing comprehensively what the needs are. A group that then defines what's needed to respond to those problems, and then selects providers who can do what needs to be done. And then to monitor what has been awarded as far as grants and donations or distribution of funds, and then to continuously maintain a commitment to continuous improvement. What I have now, the next several slides, I'm going to just go through there. It's really kind of a job description for that council. And as I said, I have all this in the minutes, so if anybody is inclined to want to dig deeply into this, that is available there too, just the different skills and responsibilities this authority would have. Briefly, the pillars of aging well. We need to talk about does it take to age well in our society? And some of the things that we all know, but we don't think about, and these are the things that are important for people to have access to if they're going to age well. Social connectedness, obviously, is really important. We go into a cave, we usually don't come out very well. We hide from people. Good physical and mental health, good nutrition and keeping physically active, having health care available when it's needed and affordable. Financial security is important. Have a life purpose. Your life doesn't end when you retire. We have to find ways of engaging life to find a purpose. Having ability to connect with your spiritually, if that's a personal desire. To have supports when you need them, high quality, affordable supports, and you will need them if you live long enough. Enjoy the capacity for mobility, to get around, to be able to interact, to attend your medical appointments or your social connections or your leisure pursuits. To live in safe and secure housing, that becomes critical for everybody at all age, but for elderly as well. to be protected somehow or shielded from harm through elder abuse or, the scamming experts that are out there invading the lives of people we love. To continuously engage in lifelong learning activities, to stay in touch with the flow of community life. There are a lot of things that the research is telling us are important to age well. And not everybody's going to do well in all of these activities, but these are the areas that are important. We need to target resources, but where? We need to be doing an assessment. What are the issues here? Is it transportation deficiencies? Is it capacity to find nutritional food? Is it housing issues? Is it caregiver access? Is it family member burnout, taking care of a loved one? Is it dealing with systemic ageism? Is it the need to find ways to enhance social connectedness? Is it employee shortages in the home health care and long-term care area? Is it protecting seniors from elder abuse and being preyed upon? Is it the access to the internet? Is that's going to be increasingly important for people as we to stay socially connected? To telemedicine is going to be a larger issue in our lives. So but it not only is access, it has to be affordable, and you have to have the skills to use it. And I think there are other issues like that we need to be mindful of. High quality healthcare when you need it. I don't know what our situation, quite frankly, is. If we have gerontologists or people that really focus on the elderly that are available for people, housing inadequacies, and the list could go on and on. And one quick example of a kind of a quiet issue out there that I think is significant that most of us don't know about, and that's our situation at Oakview right now. And I'm going to mention this. We have 95 beds at Oakview. Right now, I think today we have like 66 residents. And the reason is we have 34 vacant positions at Oakview. We can't staff up to meet their needs. I'm on that board, by the way, as well. And the issue for me is, what happens to these 25 people? Where are they? Who's taking care of them? Well, they're not in the medical care facility. They're home, and their families are taking care of them. They're trying to get along. And I'm sure a similar story is told at Metalodge. And there's stories like this throughout the community that everybody, I'm sure, is concerned about, but we don't have a group that's kind of monitoring what's going on and seeing if we can bring resources to provide respite for that family, for example. But that's just one, this Oakview one is one that just happens to be aware. We don't know for certainty what the issues are, but yet we move ahead and make decisions about what we're going to do. And what we're doing, again, is excellent, but there are many issues that aren't getting addressed. That's the need for the oversight board. Staffing responsibilities, we're going to need probably a director and probably a couple staff people, but some of the things these people would be doing is navigation guidance for people coming to that front door, doing an assessment, trying to get people connected with where they need to be, not only the individual, but the family, the minister who might be knocking on their door for a parishioner. Another thing is fund development. The board that I was on in Vermont, much larger, but we were generating $200,000 a year through our fund development activities that could go into that fund to expand what we do. This group needs to be monitoring provider performance. Are we getting what we purchased, if you will? Continuously engaged in needs assessment, trying to understand what's going on, to monitor what best practice is emerging out there to meet the needs of elderly so that we can bring that knowledge to our community, to represent the authority in dealing with other agencies who also are involved with older adults. Volunteer development. I think this is an incredible opportunity. I know we have volunteers involved right now. In Vermont, we had over 1,000 volunteers involved. Again, much larger, but what it did is it created a great resource for the people that had needs and for the volunteer. Most of our volunteers were elderly, and they found that purpose in life that I think is really powerful. And again, we have some of these activities going on now, but not in a systemic, coordinated way. we may ask this group to provide in-home supports. A lot of that is going on now, but I don't think adequate to the need. People are going to have multiple responsibilities. I think the Council on Aging, the group that Wally sits on, is the natural group to morph into this authority. But I also feel that if that group doesn't want to, that we need to find some way to get a group in charge of our services. I think the timing is very good right now. I believe that there is a receptive county commission to look at these issues. There are several key people in our provider organizations that will be retiring in the not too distant future. I have to be careful there because they may be more distant or less distant, but they're not going to be there forever. And right now our system is kind of built on relationships, which is great. And most of the good things in life, there is a good relationship, but the structure is built on relationships. And with a bunch of people retiring, that could get awkward. The Council on Aging needs to be revitalized and to get a clearer purpose. So that's part of the reason right now it might be a good time. And maybe the most important thing, our community is aging. We have a quarter of the people that are 65 and older. That number is going to elevate as a percentage of what's going on. And without such an oversight group, I fear we're going to miss opportunities that and needs are going to be unfulfilled. At the very back, where are you going to get all these skills? What we did in Vermont, and I take credit for it, I was the chair of the board, so this one works, so I'll take credit for it, is we engaged in a process over several months. It was ongoing, 30 minutes or more at each meeting. We picked a topic. It might be demographics of elderly citizens in the community. It might be healthcare access, or it might be any number of topics, and that list is provided in the handout that I have. But over time, that group became very knowledgeable about how to proceed, how to do the assessment, how to discover best practice and what's going on. And I know our group could do that here too, very well. And one of the neat things we did, we called upon citizens of the community to make presentations. It engaged people in the services to the elderly in a very positive way. My intent, I have no interest in a compensated position. This isn't all about getting me a job. I had a job. I did that for a long time. I don't want to do what many of you do right now, those 80-hour weeks, forget that. All I want to do is to be maybe a catalyst in the community and to be involved in some way to kind of make this group appear. I know there are a lot of issues that are unanswered. Who's going to be the employer? Where will it be physically located? There are probably some political and legal issues that need to be addressed. I fully understand that that's out there, but I also think that dealing with these issues it's doable because other counties have done it, and counties very nearby. Oceana is an example. Osceola is an example. Mecosta is an example. These counties have been able to figure out how to do it, and I judge that we can do that too. The next step, just to keep talking about it, I'm going to go back to the council with information that I pick up until we can kind of figure out what would look right and feel right for our community, and then go out and find an example of where it's working that way, and then tweak it to the extent that we need to and try to make it happen here in Mason County and in Ludington. I need to keep the council apprised of what I'm doing. Eventually you'll endorse a model, and we need to keep the county involved, obviously the commissioners, because they oversee the Council on Aging and have control of the resources through the senior millage. And that's it. I'm sorry I took so long, but it's I just wanted to keep you aware of what we're doing. I'll hand out, and it has the information if you have any questions. If you want me to come back, not expecting that call, but I do think it's an important issue that we as a community need to look at holistically and think about, partly because you're all going to be there someday. All of us are going to be, if we're not there already, some of us are already, but we're going to be, that's part of our life. And we're going to get older, we're going to have needs, people we care about. And again, I'd like to see our community become a model for taking care and tapping the resources of our older adults. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, are there any questions or comments for Dr. Halliday? Covered a lot of territory there. Thank you,
Yeah,
Doctor.
I went
Appreciate it.
really quickly, and I go into depth, and even in my notes about my background, I have a note from my mother telling what a good boy I was as a kid, so
If you leave those with the clerk,
yeah,
we'll get
with the
handed out.
clerk. Also, if anybody, I can't imagine it, but if you would like oh, thanks. Yeah, probably need it. If you would like, Deb could take your email address, and I'll just email the stuff to you if we run out of it, because I only have about 10 or so of these copies. So, thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Trying to get that. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Showing a lot of hustle tonight, Deb. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Next up, we have committee and staff reports, hearing first from the Finance and Personnel Committee. Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no report for this evening, but we do have a couple of action items. We need to approve change order number 3 for the new fish cleaning station. They had to add, let's see, 120 amp 2-pole breaker in the electric panel. They had to add 120 amp 240 volt circuit through existing underground conduit to cooler freezer location. They had to add 1 pull-out style disconnect for local disconnecting means. And also they needed to purchase and install miscellaneous materials to complete final connection to equipment. And the total for that was $1,225. And I move that we approve that.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor Johnson, seconded by Counselor Winchesky to approve change order number 3 for the Loomis Street restrooms and fish cleaning station as presented. Council, we have any questions?
I do have a question. Counselor Johnson, is this probably our last change order? Like the restrooms and facilities are very near being finished, correct?
Yeah, I hope so. I don't think there's a whole lot left to do down there.
No, all we're waiting on now, there were 2 items that were taking a little bit longer. One was plumbing fixtures. There are supply chain issues there. And the second thing, and I believe I've kept council as up to date as I can, is consumers. Consumers is well behind a number of projects, and this is just one of them. So we're just waiting for the hookup.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, council? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
And the next item we have to approve the bid for FDOC replacement in the municipal marina. We had 2 bids, one for $348,819 and one for $412,762. And one was a local bid and one was, well, local Hart, I guess. The other one was from a Mount Pleasant company. And so the lower bid was from J Rank Electric Company in Mount Pleasant for the $348,819. And they will use local contractors if they are available. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the bid of $348,819 from J Rank Electric Incorporated of Mount Pleasant.
I'll support the motion.
Motion by Counselor Johnson, seconded by Counselor Stibbits to approve the bid submitted by J Rank Electric, Inc. for the replacement of the municipal marina FDOC as presented. Any questions or comments, council? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion's carried.
And that's all I have for tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counselor. Public Safety, Public Utilities, Counselor May.
Your Honor, I have nothing to report nor any action items to consider.
Thank you. Building and License, Long Range Planning, Counselor Terzano.
Your Honor, I have no report, but I have several action items. First action item is to adopt ordinance number 458-21, amendment to the rental inspection ordinance. The City of Ludington rental ordinance was established in 2016 for the purpose of ensuring rental units within the City of Ludington were meeting basic safety and health standards as well as building codes. The ordinance requires the inspection and registration of all rental units within the City of Ludington. Upon administration of the rental program, it's been determined that adjustment to the ordinance is needed. The proposed adjustments address the need to register all units on a 3-year cycle in the same manner as short-term rentals are registered, and to require inspection reports for units funded through the Housing and Urban Development Office. It requires that these reports be on file in lieu of the city inspection. So I so move that we adopt ordinance number 458-21, amendment to rental inspection ordinance.
I'll support that.
Well, thank you. Motion by Counselor Terzano, seconded by Counselor Kane to adopt ordinance 458-21, an amendment to the rental inspection ordinance, effectively changing the cycle of rental registration and requiring housing quality inspection reports to be submitted to the City of Ludington's building inspector as presented. Council, we have any questions or concerns? As this is an ordinance, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Stibbits?
Yes.
Counselor May?
Yes.
Counselor Terzano?
Aye.
Counselor Kane?
Aye.
Counselor Winchevsky?
Yes.
Counselor Bolger?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
All ayes?
Thank you. This motion is carried.
My second action item is the first presentation of ordinance number 460-21, accessory dwelling units. The Planning Commission has been working on the feasibility of adding accessory dwelling units to the city to provide housing options while preserving the character of residential neighborhoods. In this first presentation, I do want to make mention that the Planning Commission, when they met on this, there was some discussion regarding existing structures, such as existing carriage houses and garages, and has a way to allow those units to be considered for ADUs. It was thought that they could go through the process of the Zoning Board of Appeals. But in further discussion after that meeting and in our Building and License Committee meeting, City Manager Ms. Foster said that the Zoning Board of Appeals is the wrong vehicle to use, and the correct one would be to make it a special land use. So Building and License added some language from the Planning Commission, and it says under existing structure exemption. If an existing accessory structure exists on the lot and is located closer than the allowable setbacks to the side of the rear yard as noted in this ordinance, and may be converted to an ADU if approved through a special land use process. So I just wanted to make the council aware that the planning commission passed it, but the building and license added some language to deal with the accessory dwelling units. And this is just the first reading.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Miller, I'd like to comment too on this a little bit. The ADU situation, the goal of the ADUs was to encourage a variety of residential settings to serve all citizens. And I think that has a possibility to do that for sure. But just today, it looks like the short-term rental legislation that's passed the House of Representatives is going to the Senate possibly this week for a ruling on the short-term rental situation. So this might be a moot comment right now, but it'd be nice to see what the state decides to do before we decide on ADU situations. And it sounds like it may not even go to committee. It might go right to the Senate this week and be settled this week. So by the time we meet again to vote on it, we would know the answer to that. But I think that might impact the ADU situation too, depending on if the state passes their short-term rental situation. So I'd like us to think about that before the vote next meeting.
I would like to suggest that ADUs are nothing more than another toolkit in trying to address the housing situation. If you take a look at 2 years ago, I think we passed an ordinance allowing conversions. We've not had one application for a conversion. It took us almost 10 months to fill out the 30 licenses for short-term rentals. I don't think that there is going to be a flood of ADUs, regardless of what the state does on short-term rentals. It is an expensive process. There's just, all we're looking to do is just add another toolkit in our arsenal here to address our housing needs. And then for those individuals that have the wherewithal and the means to do it, they can go ahead and do it. So anyhow, this is just the first presentation and we'll vote on it next time. Thank you. Second one is first presentation of ordinance number 461-21, text changes to the busking ordinance. All this does is allow performers, whether they're musician or street performers, to operate within the DDA area, in the Central Business District area. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Moving on to Cemetery, Parks, and Recreation, Counselor Stibbits.
Yes, thank you. We have no report tonight and 2 action items. We had first presentations of these ordinances at our last meeting, and I believe we were all here to kind of review those and ask questions. So with that being said, I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 456-21, which is the park rule changes.
I'll second.
Motion by Counselor Stibbits, second by Counselor Winchesky to adopt ordinance 456-21, amending certain provisions in Chapter 38, Article 3 of the Parks Regulations as presented. Counselor, do we have any questions or comments? Again, as this is an ordinance, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Terzano,
Aye.
Counselor Bolger,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Kane,
Aye.
Counselor Stibbits,
Yes.
Counselor Winchesky,
Yes.
Counselor May.
Yes.
All ayes.
This motion is carried. Thank you.
And then we also had a first presentation last time regarding the anchorage in the channel, clarifying some language and provisions for who was going to make the necessary changes or calls in that. And I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 457-21, anchorage in the channel.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Stibbits, second by Counselor Terzana to adopt ordinance 457-21, amending Chapter 66, Article 2, General Section 66-39 and 66-40, supervision of anchorage and movement as presented. Council, we have any questions? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor May,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Winchevsky,
Yes.
Counselor Bolger,
Yes.
Counselor Stibbits,
Yes.
Counselor Terzano,
Aye.
Counselor Kane.
Aye.
All ayes.
That motion is carried. Thank you.
And that is all we have tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. And at the end of the adoption of these three ordinances we just did, I want to thank the council and the committees that they sit on off of this dais for the long term that has been spent on all three of these ordinances and get them into ordinance. Thank you very much for staying focused over that time and getting these into the ordinance book. Thank you very much. Communication from city officials. City council, floor is open.
Yes, the next meeting of the Council of Aging is Thursday, November 18th at 1 PM at the Scottville Senior Center.
Anything
Public
else?
is welcome,
Thank you.
including council.
Anything else, council? And we'll move on to communications from the city manager.
A few items of note in my report, real quick. The two first items that I noted were meetings that were held with Representative O'Malley multiple times within the last couple of weeks regarding the short-term rental bill. He did end up voting against the proposal as it was in the House. And then this past week, we had a chance, a group of community members and myself met with Senator Vanderwall to discuss the issue as well. This morning, I also had the opportunity to send an email off to the state senators that represent most of the Lake Michigan Lakeshore, essentially asking for what I would believe is a very simple ask, which is have a conversation with their community members. I think there are differences between Ludington, Charlevoix, Petoskey, South Haven, Frankfort, Grand Haven, and Midland, or Cedar Springs, or some of the communities that are in similar sizes, but not a lakeshore community that's much smaller. And I think if we were to have conversations about some of these issues of dealing with short-term rentals, we come to a positive solution. I don't think there's anybody at the table that probably doesn't think short-term rentals have a place here. There's value. They bring in money to the community that is spent here. However, unfettered short-term rentals, as they've shown in Arizona and other locations, cause some fairly large disruptions to service-heavy or tourism-heavy communities in a very negative way. So are asking for those sorts of help. Additionally, met with a local real estate investors group to talk about long-term rentals as well as short-term rentals, and we hope to meet with them again to talk zoning issues with Councilor Terzano and some planning commission members. And then I had a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce and some economic development folks around the area to talk about workforce. Housing issues are one thing, workforce issues are a whole nother ball of wax right now. And I'm sure everybody that is not, as Dr. Halliday talked about, not working the 80 hours a week, but everybody else is recognizing that the folks that we're working with are fewer and fewer of them. And we need to figure out a way to reinvigorate the workforce somehow, because there are too many positions open in very important locations across the community, from pizza delivery folks to working with elder care. And how do we fill those positions? Because every one of them is important because they fill a role in our community. And so trying to understand why and how we can make it better. So other than that, unless there are questions, the last item I do have on there, I didn't have a chance to meet with the new city manager in Manistee. I had to leave on Friday because our daycare closed because of COVID. So I got to watch my son on Friday afternoon and got no work done. So I will I'm trying to reschedule that meeting with Mr. Gamble up in Manistee. But any questions or comments that I can answer at this point? If not, I do have one item for action, and this is it's a big one. Before you is a resolution that Clerk Luskin, with edits or comments from Attorney Hammersley and myself, drafted to begin the process for a charter revision commission. The resolution has essentially two parts. One is saying yes to, from City Council's perspective, to move forward with the Charter Revision Commission and placing the question on the ballot to say, yes, do you want to revise the charter essentially, or no? And then the second part of the resolution, under all of the whereases and therefores, is to establish a point in time, or establish at the same election, the election of members of that commission. Obviously, as we've shown before, and in this memo that's written, there are expenditures associated with that. I do know that Clerk Luskin and Attorney Hammersley and I have, I think, talked individually, not as a group, but we all have kind of dug into the idea that was shared by Ms. McClellan last meeting about kind of a neutral arbitrator, that you'd want to have somebody with kind of a legal background. And so that would be up to that charter revisions or charter commission's purview at that point in time as to kind of who led them really. But this is, I would ask for this item to be considered by City Council this evening with questions available to be answered by any number of us here.
I move to adopt a resolution to propose a general revision of the city charter.
And I'll second.
Thank you, councilors. Excuse me. Motion by Councilor Tizano, seconded by Councilor Winchesky to adopt a resolution to approve a general revision to the City of Ludington Charter as presented. And this is now the time to ask for questions. Ask the questions that you have for city manager.
You would set this up for November next year election? Not do a special election?
23rd.
You would try to do it at a year from now, November election?
We were looking at the May election.
Oh, you're looking at May?
Already there is one in Mason County, so it looks like Mason County Central potential bond proposal to go on the ballot. So then we would be sharing in the cost of that election. That was an idea. I mean, there is the potential for moving that out till November as well, but I didn't see a need for that if we could share in the cost.
And it does give everyone, if approved tonight, it does give time to get the word out there through our multiple sources of media within the room, to allow folks the understanding of what it is and who can. So
I don't remember how long, I assume that someone who wants to be on the commission and runs has to get a petition.
That's correct. They
Right.
would get a petition. They would obtain 40 signatures of registered voters in the city, and they would drop that back off by January 18th in order for it to be placed on the ballot. Their names placed on the ballot.
Is that enough time? I mean,
Oh,
You're
2 months. It would be plenty of time. I mean, petitions will be ready for the races for the city council next year, the 2nd, 4th, 6th ward, the
Oh, that's
mayor and the clerk will also be out in January, and those will be due, let's see, April 19th. I think that's the date out of the top of my head for the August election.
Okay,
So-
good.
I just have a clarification on the process. So what you're asking us today is to make a decision if we would like this to go to a public vote. Yes, the public wants to revisit the city charter, or no, they do not. And then at the time of election, those that have taken out petitions will also be on the ballot.
correct.
But if the public decides no, then that will just be null and void that particular election. But if the
yeah.
public says yes, then we would vote on that committee. They would have voted on that committee.
Correct. Yes.
Once the committee is formed, the work would of course start.
Mhm.
And then once the work is complete, what's the process for that? Does it go back to a vote of the public
Yes.
to approve the revisions? Okay.
Yes. Yep. And then once approved locally, the Attorney General's office, all right, yeah, Attorney General's office acting on behalf of the governor then has final review.
Okay.
And we would most likely be trying to encourage the commission to interact with the Attorney General's office earlier rather than later, because when it's a general revision, it's obviously much larger. You know, they have a pretty decent turnaround time with relatively minor revisions, but when it comes to these larger ones, we want to get that in the queue as early as possible.
We did get notification from the governor's office earlier this year about general revisions and the fact that there's more of a lead time that we have to get it to them quite a bit earlier than what just an amendment to the charter would encounter. And also during this entire process, there should be a lot of publication of different things that we're working on. We've got the internet now that we can, Facebook, we can put those kind of things out there. And then when it gets ready to go to the vote of the people, we're required to publish the entire thing in the newspaper too, so.
Okay, thank you.
There are 9 members on the committee.
Correct.
Is there any, what about alternates? Is there any concept of an alternate in case one of the members drops out over 2 years?
There is a revision, process that if someone drops out, then the commissioners can ask for people that are interested, and then they vote on who should be
The committee votes on that.
Yes.
Right.
Would that be the same process if you didn't have 9 people that wanted to participate in the committee that brought out petitions in the required amount of time?
I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to look into
I
that.
wouldn't think they would force you to go to another election, but
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know enough about that particular fact situation to
Okay.
That's why
advise
the
you
word
credibly
mouth
right now.
should get out there
Yeah.
and get the people interested.
The meetings are open,
Yes, subject to the Open Meetings Act.
so they'll be taking minutes and approval of the minutes and
Presumably.
agendas and all that good stuff.
And we're anticipating about a 2-year timeline on that? Is that-
approximately.
There's a maximum of 90 meeting dates to get the revision.
Okay.
And there's a per diem, or what's the salary structure for the members?
Well, that would need to be set. Right now, we budgeted a salary amount for each meeting, but it was just a budget based on kind of an arbitrary amount. The salary would have to be set.
It would have to be set by the council.
I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a good
I
question.
think-
I'll look into that on
I
how
think
the
that's-
salary is established, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Do we have any further questions? Any vote regarding the city charter requires a 3/5 majority, and rather than just taking a voice vote, I'm going to ask Madam Clerk to call the roll for this vote.
Counselor Kane,
Aye.
Counselor Winchevsky,
Yes.
Counselor May,
Yes.
Counselor Bulger,
Yes.
Counselor Terzano,
Aye.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
and Counselor Stibbits.
Yes.
All ayes.
Thank you, council. This motion is carried. That'll be all.
That is all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Mayor's report. I met this morning with the Mason County Rural Transportation Authority, and present were the city of Scottville. I represented the city of Ludington. Mason County Road Commission was there. LMTA Director Keeson was there. It was a small group. They were just going over their budgets and projects for the upcoming years, and I was just there to advocate for the continued drive to have the authority push as hard as they can to get transportation stops along the US 10 corridor as a first step to anything else that they may do further out in the county, but at least set up something in some way to discover a way to have stops at the businesses along the US 10 corridor. After that meeting, LMTA Supervisor Keeson could not give me any specifics, but he was very positive that things have been moving in that direction. Conversations he's had with townships in between Scottville and the city of Ludington have been had, and he was very positive this would be moving forward. I'm sorry, I don't have more specifics for you, but like these other ordinances that we've talked about tonight, this has been a long time project that's been going on, and it's Mr. Keeson's opinion that we are closer now than I think we've ever been. So that is a positive that's coming on. I'm proud to report that. I'll be proud to report when they come up with their final decisions. In your packet is a ordinance 459-21. This is the first reading. It's in your packet, but ultimately what this is an ordinance that needs to be amended to accommodate a change by the Tree Advisory Board. In 2018, the authority was established, and it required by charter 5 members. The Arbor Foundation has revised its requirements for applications, and now they strongly recommend 7 members. So this amendment would be to increase the amount of Tree Advisory Board members to a maximum of 7. We are currently at 4, as one has recently passed away. We have 2 people interested in that spot, and this conveniently adds 2 people from the community who have no other involvement in city affairs, an opportunity to participate. So if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them now, but when we meet in 2 weeks, I'll ask for approval of that amendment. Any questions? All right, thank you. Please let it be noted that the city acknowledges and is in receipt of an appeal of the Ludington Police Department Freedom of Information Act response number 042 relating to Ludington Police Department report number 21-3513. And lastly, as a reminder to council and the public of a scheduled meeting of the Committee of the Whole of this City Council to discuss the city's contract with Republic Services and to also discuss 5G small cell wireless within the city limits. This meeting is set for Wednesday, November 10th, 6:30 here at City Hall. Moving on to public comment at second opportunity. Anyone wishing to address council, please step to the lectern and proceed after stating your name and address. Please speak directly into the microphone and address all comments to this chair. Each speaker is allotted 2 minutes. And with that, the floor is open.
Gene Kyle, 304 East Court Street, Ludington, Michigan. I've now had the opportunity to hear Dr. Halliday's presentation twice. Over the last year or so, I've also had the opportunity to have dealings or work with the county commissioners, the Council on Aging, as well as this committee. I would like to take this opportunity to say I certainly hope that this body takes seriously what you heard tonight, because I think we have a golden opportunity to make something happen. Something really positive for this community. Not that it's going to be easy, but it's going to be something that's going to take a lot of work from a lot of people. And I'm simply asking that you be a part of that and say, let's do it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address council? I see no other speakers, and I'll close public comment and move to miscellaneous business. Council, do we have anything further to add before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Your Honor, I was going to ask you a minute ago, will there be a speaker from Republic Services at our Council of the Whole?
Yes, you will be there.
All right.
Yep.
I have one good thing to share too. There's a local person here who was honored. Liz Remnick, the Mason County Emergency Management Coordinator, has earned the 2021 Distinguished Service Award from the Michigan Emergency Management Association. This award is granted to someone who has demonstrated distinguished service to the emergency management discipline by a high level of excellence or advancement that is above and beyond what is considered the normal duties of the position. Congratulations to Liz, who works at the emergency management office, is at the sheriff's office, and she's done a really good job, and it's one of our local people who got recognition for it. So thanks.
Thank you. Anything else, council? If not, this concludes the agenda for this evening, and I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Winchesky, seconded by Counselor Bulger to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you for your attendance and participation. This meeting is adjourned.
It's very aggressive.
Going to play tomorrow and the next day too. Mitch and I played yesterday.
Mr. Bannon.
You're on the Council on Aging, and you're talking about green
Just hoping it
burials.
keeps coming
It's a
back.
concern. I mean,